Welcome to Lesson 4 on subtracting integers. So subtracting integers is going to work very similarly to adding integers, like what we did yesterday. You're going to watch this video and go through each problem with me. Now, I strongly encourage you to pause the video and to try to model the problem on the number line so that you're able to develop your own rule. However, if you are unable to do this or you want to check your understanding, just press play and then you can follow along with me. Okay, so the first one we're going to go over is a simple positive minus a positive. So we're just going to go over 3 minus 2. On a number line, we can find positive 3, which would be right here. And we can subtract 2 so that we get an answer or a solution of positive 1. Now we're going to go over a couple examples where we're doing a positive minus a negative. So the first one we're going to go over is positive 5 minus negative 2. And I'm just drawing the parentheses here so that you can see the difference between the subtraction sign and the negative sign. So for this problem, I'm going to go ahead and start at positive 5, which is right here. And I'm going to subtract negative 2. So what I'm going to do with positive 5 is I'm actually going to draw a negative sign and a positive sign on the two sides of my number line. And if I start at positive 5, I can use my fingernail and face my fingernail towards the negative. Because it's subtraction, I can face my fingernail towards the negative side of our number line. But since we're subtracting negative 2, I'm then going to move my finger backwards 2 spaces. So I'm actually going to move it to the right. Because my finger is facing to the left, I'm going to move my finger back 2 spaces, which would mean that my solution then is going to actually be positive 7. I want you to go ahead and try this next one on your own. We're going to do positive 4 minus negative 7. Go ahead and pause the video and restart it as soon as you're ready to check your answer. All right, so if we're going to start at positive 4 on our number line, we can put our fingernail there and have our fingernail face towards the negative side of our number line because it's a subtraction problem. And then we're going to move backwards 7 spaces. So if I move 7 spaces backwards, ooh, I'm just out of space. That's going to be positive 11. All right, let's try one more. You've got 2 minus negative 4. So if I start at positive 2 on my number line and I face the negative side of my number line, I then can move backwards 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I get a solution of positive 6. All right, so can you, based on these 3 examples, can you develop your own rule? Go ahead and give that a shot. All right, so really the rule here should be whenever you're subtracting a negative, so whenever you have a subtraction sign and a negative sign that are right next to each other in a number sentence, really you're just adding. And I like to explain this as a double negative in English, like in your English class, your language arts class, really means a positive. So a double negative in math really means that you're adding or that it's going to be positive. All right, let's go ahead and move on to a negative minus a negative. Okay, so with this one, it's going to be very similar. We're going to start with the example, negative 5 minus negative 2. Okay, so on our number line, we can go ahead and start at negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Since it's a subtraction sign, I can face the negative side of my number line, and then I can move my finger backwards 2 spaces, which is really going to be negative 3. All right, let's take a look at the next one. We've got -7 minus -3. So we'll start at -7 on our number line. We'll face, since it's subtraction, towards the subtraction side of our number line. Then we will move backwards 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, and we end at -4. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Sorry, my numbering is all messed up on the side of the page, but that's all right. We've got -8 minus -10. So again, we'll start at -8. We'll face towards the negative sign of our number line, and we'll move backwards 10 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you should end at +2. So in looking at these 3 examples, can you develop your own rule? Go ahead and pause the video, try to come up with your own rule, and then press play as soon as you're ready to check your rule. Okay, in looking at this, really, again, we're just taking a negative minus a negative. So since we're subtracting a negative and we've got a subtraction and a negative right next to each other, in a way, we're really taking a negative plus a positive. So the rule would be that when you're taking a negative minus a negative, it would be the same thing as a negative plus a positive, which in this case, you can follow your steps from yesterday. All right, let's move on to the next set, which is a negative minus a positive. So the first example that we're going to look at is going to be -3 minus 7. So we'll start on my number line at -3. And then since it's subtraction, I'm going to face towards the negative side of my number line. I'm going to face my fingernail to the left. And I'm going to move, since it's minus +7, I'm going to move my fingernail forwards 7 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I end at -10. Let's go ahead and check the next one, which is -11 minus +6. Same thing here. We're going to start at -11. Since it's a subtraction problem, I can go ahead and face my fingernail towards the negative side of my number line. And then I can move my finger forward 6 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I end at -17. Hold on, I lost my example. All right, next one that we're going to try is going to be -5 minus +8. Go ahead and try this one on your own, and then check, press play as soon as you're ready to check your answer. All right, so if we've got -5 minus 8, you're really going to end up with -13 as your solution. So based on these 3 examples, can you create your own rule down here at the bottom of your page? Go ahead and pause the video, think of a rule, write it down, and press play as soon as you're ready to check yourself. All right, let's go ahead and check ourselves. So really, when we're taking a negative minus a positive, we're just doing our normal subtraction of we're starting at a negative number and then we're subtracting or moving to the left on our number line the positive number of spaces, and we're ending with a smaller negative number than we started with. Because remember, on our number line, the smaller numbers get, or the larger the digit gets in the negative number, the smaller that the value is. Okay, so in this case, -13 is actually smaller than -5, and -17 is smaller than -11. Okay, now if we were to discuss a rule or a pattern for all of these, Let's go ahead and fill out this chart right here. So go ahead, pause the video, try to fill this out, and then press play as soon as you're ready to check it. All right, so really when we come to subtracting integers, there really is only one final rule. And the final rule is that anytime you're adding an integer, or sorry, whenever you're adding anytime you're subtracting a negative, you actually can change the subtraction to addition of the opposite. So our final rule that we're going to be talking about in class, we're going to say that we're going to add the opposite. For example, if we had the example of -5 minus -2, instead of subtracting a negative, we could add the opposite. So we could change the subtraction to addition, and then what is the opposite of -2 on our number line? Well, it would be +2. So now we've just got -5 plus +2, and now you can just follow your addition rules that we went over yesterday. Let's look at another example. Let's look at -11 minus +6. Again, any subtraction problem, we can truly just add the opposite. So we can change the subtraction to addition, and then we can change the +6 to a -6. Now we're adding two negative numbers, which from your rules from yesterday, you know that you can add their absolute values. 11 plus 6 is 17. And since it's a negative plus a negative, your solution will also be negative. Let's try one more example. Let's try 4 minus -7. Okay, in this case, we've got subtraction of a negative, so we can really change the subtraction to addition, and then we can add the opposite of -7, which is +7. 4 plus 7, your solution is just going to be 11. So really, in the end, this is the end-all be-all rule, because if you add the opposite, then all you have to remember is the addition rules that you went over yesterday. Go ahead and work through these next couple. I'm going to work through them right now, and then you can check your answers against my key and then start your homework. All right, as soon as you get these correct, go ahead and start your homework. I will post an answer key for the homework tomorrow in class so that you can check your answers, and we'll go over these rules all together.